Next year, Americans will celebrate our nation's 250th birthday. Michael Medved has written a best-selling book about the hand of God in America's founding, and now it's been made into a docudrama in anticipation of the anniversary of the Declaration of Independence.
The entire story of America is so unlikely.
Michael Medved is an author, political commentator, film critic, and talk show host whose career successes came early and often. Michael attended California public schools until age 16, when he enrolled at Yale as a National Merit Scholar. He went on to attend Yale Law School and then worked as a campaign speechwriter and political consultant. Michael authored his first best-selling book at age 26. That book gave birth to a television series. His newest project turns his latest book into a docudrama. The American Miracle explores moments of crisis in our nation's history, interrupted by the hand of Providence.
It's a beautiful film. Michael Medved is with us now. Michael, welcome back.
Thank you, Andrew. It's a pleasure to be here.
So when you wrote the book, were you thinking at the time this could make a great docudrama as well, or was it just book only at that point?
It was book only, and trying to fit in, because one of the things when you start looking for evidence of these illogical, happy coincidences, people say, the idea of a divine purpose in the United States and things happening that you wouldn't expect. And for people who say, well, America's just lucky. These are just happy circumstances, happy accidents. America's no accident. And a pattern of happy accidents is still a pattern. And that's what the movie is about, is actually finding that pattern, which all of our most important leaders have believed in, from Washington to Lincoln, Woodrow Wilson, Franklin Roosevelt. All of our leaders have understood that America has a divine purpose.
Well, let's talk about Washington. George Washington, we know him as a great leader, but you point out in the film, God seemed to have a hand of protection on George Washington.
And they knew it at the time. I found this sermon that was delivered by Samuel Davies, who was a very prominent Presbyterian clergyman, and he later became president of Princeton University. But Washington was 23 years old. He had participated in the Battle of Monongahela, which we show in the film. And they had 70 British officers who went to battle. 69 of them were either killed or wounded. Only one escaped. And Samuel Davies, in a sermon, welcomed him back at 23 years old, said, this young man will perform an important service to his country. He founded it.
Yeah. And isn't it interesting, too, like early in the film, you talk about how Thomas Jefferson, was it John Adams, hundreds of miles apart on the 50th anniversary of the United States, both meeting their death, right, the same day.
Correct, and they were the two people most responsible for the Declaration of Independence. John Adams was called the Atlas of Independence. He fought for it, and Thomas Jefferson wrote the Declaration. And they were rivals. They ran against each other for president twice. Adams won the first time, Jefferson won the second time. But then they patched up their friendship and they corresponded to each other. And for the 50th anniversary, the Jubilee year for the United States, our 50th anniversary on July 4th, they were both alive. And Adams was 90 and Jefferson was 83, which is phenomenal for those days. And they both wanted to live to see the grand jubilee, the 50th anniversary of the country. And the odds are about 7 million to 1 against it, but they both died on the same day. They're the only two presidents who've ever died on the same day. And it's remarkable, and people at the time saw this as a proof of divine favor and intervention in setting out the destiny of America.
You also spend time showing the examples of the Continental Army and some of the natural phenomena, I believe you called it, in how they seem to be aided by God in some ways. Can you share a couple of those examples?
Well, the most dramatic thing is the worst battle of the entire war was in the summer of 1776. It was after July 4th. And the Continental Army in the Battle of Brooklyn lost. They had 2 generals captured. They had staggering losses, and they were trapped with a British fleet with 4 warships in the East River and the American troops in Brooklyn, and they were about to be captured, killed, and hanged. That was the plan for all of the leaders of this revolution. And Washington had this bold idea that we will sneak out. Now, how do you sneak out with an army of several thousand people that they had left in New York, going across the river right by these British men of war?
You don't. You can't.
You can't, except for the fact that God, and they believed that it was God, created this fog that was completely unseasonable. It's in August. You know, it's not foggy in New York in August. It was this foggy, this particular 1776 August. And under the fog, they got the army out safely and were able to continue the war. And the British themselves highlighted that they believed that there was something supernatural about the deliverance of the American troops.
Let's talk about some of your stars, some familiar faces. Pat Boone,
Yes.
Kevin Sorbo. What was their involvement?
Well, they play the same guy, Thomas Jefferson. And
There's Kevin Sorbo, right?
Thomas Jefferson as a young man is played by Kevin Sorbo, and Thomas Jefferson as an older man. He
Pat
was
Boone,
83,
there he is.
Pat Boone. And I think they participated in this film as a labor of love and patriotism, and that was true for a lot of people, some of whom were surprising. Oscar winner Richard Dreyfuss appears in the film and comments about his passion for civics, just to get Americans to appreciate the fact that the country is no accident.
Well, you're in the film. You guide us through, throughout the film.
Try.
There's a docudrama, and then you also have experts, historians, professors throughout giving perspective. Why was that important for the film for you?
Well, so that people don't think that this is just some cultish or politically motivated. It's not. This is the understanding that America is this illogical development has been so important to our country. One of the things that I say in the book is that 500 years ago, if there was somebody who was a time traveler from 500 years ago till today, they'd recognize a lot of countries in the world. I mean, France would have this superiority complex, they always do. Russia would be a mess, it always has been. Britain would be trying to bring order to all of these different nations. The one nation that no one would know anything about is the United States. Because the idea that in North America, this profoundly powerful, influential, amazing civilization would arise, no one would have expected. And again, the gratitude that we feel, which is, I think, so important, has to do with the idea that there is a purpose to the country. Otto von Bismarck, the German chancellor, had this wonderful statement that I think summarizes the case. He says, God has special protection for lost dogs, small children, drunkards, and the United States of America.
What a statement. And if I may, coming away from the film, it seems like one of the messages is the government doesn't grant rights. God grants us rights at birth. The government should be protecting rights. Am I on track?
Absolutely,
Okay.
because that was the basis for the entire revolution. And the point is, and we make it in the film, many of the founding fathers were not conventionally religious, but they believed deeply in what Washington, in his first inaugural address, called the invisible hand, which was the hand of God in human affairs.
What's the best way for people to see the docudrama?
Well, first, to come out for the opening. It opens on June 9th, and it will be playing in 1,000 theaters to begin with. And I hope that people will see it and support it, because the message, again, is so much needed at a time of division and disillusionment for many people in this country. And I think that audiences that have seen it so far, we had a showing here last night, audiences that have seen it so far are deeply moved by the film, and that's exactly the intention.
Yeah. It's beautifully done, Michael. Thanks so much.
Andrew.
And thanks for being here.
What a pleasure.
And to learn how you can watch the new docudrama, The American Miracle, you can just go to cbnnews.com and there will be more information there.